LPAZ Fórum 2023. It's been a long journey. Professor Luís Nuno Rodrigues yesterday already talked about some of the beginnings. Yesterday we had a soft opening with a welcome dinner and the round table. Now we're starting with the official opening of the LPAZ Fórum. That this year's theme is the Azores, the Atlantic, and the global challenges. It has been a challenge to make this kind of conference in Santa Maria, in the Azores and in Santa Maria. We've been doing this since 2015. 2 years after we created this association, LPAZ Association, that's main purpose is to study, to understand the heritage of the aviation industry in the Azores and specifically in Santa Maria. It was a private enterprise, so it's easier for us, if you allow me, as historians, to do the history of state enterprises like diplomatic or military history. For civilian history, it's very, very difficult. Like industrial activities, commercial activities, it's more difficult, even more when in peripheric and insular spaces like the Azores. So probably the same might be happening now, because this was a private enterprise with Pan American and other companies. And it's very difficult to make that to study that. Maybe nowadays what's happening with the space technologies, it will be very difficult to make this history in the future. So we should learn with this and start doing the history as it's happening. Just to talk a bit more about the LPAZ Forum. So we were here since 2015, initially with aviation writers, aviators, so aviation literature. It was Saint-Exupéry and all his friends. It was very interesting. 2017, we did Aviation, the Impact on Time and Space. This title was suggested by Alan Dobson, the great historian of aviation, and not only aviation historian. Then pandemic came, and we're back since last year with this broader theme to reflect on the Atlantic issues through this small, tiny center and foundational center of the Azores. So this, as I was telling to Alana yesterday, this is the foundational center of the Azores. It's the first island to emerge, the first island to be discovered, and it has the first island to know about the Americas. So the first place in Europe that received Christopher Columbus. So there's a lot of small things that I think it makes this the perfect place to make this Atlantic reflection. And it's been a journey with our main partners, the regional government, here represented by my professor, Carlos Amaral. It's now the director for the European matters and the foreign relations. That's the translation, more or less. Diretor Regional dos Assuntos Europeus e Cooperação Externa. And the municipality of Vila do Porto, here represented by Domingos Barbosa, the vice president. And we've been having the support as well as since last edition from FLAD here. Thank you, Elsa Henriques, for being present here today. On the academic partners, we've been always working with the University of the Azores, not only the linguistic department, but the literature department, but also the CEHu, the Centro de Estudos Humanísticos. I won't translate this. And Also a major partner since the beginning with Luís Nuno Rodrigues, and now with Ana Mónica Fonseca, the Center for International Studies of Iscte, now represented here by Ana Mónica Fonseca. And since last year, we have been working with Atlantic Center, firstly with Licínia Simão and represented now by Luís Costa Cabral. Thank you all for being with us. It's very important for us to spread our this event. Also a major, an important partner is TSA, the Transatlantic Studies Association, which gives us an Atlantic perspective. Am I forgetting any? No, it's okay. Well, this is a small association, a local association that tries to reflect on the Atlantic issues. It's done by people like me and others. That's just for voluntary, so for free, voluntarily. Just try to do things like this. So it's time to present here the team that's here. So we have Álvaro Antunes, is one of the founder of the association, is vice president. Ricardo is the master of everything. Sorry, Ricardo Batista is working always on this, the image, the logos, the online edition. So Ricardo is working on that. I'm sorry? The technology. So the other friends are not here. Also, Elena is also from LPAZ, and she's helping us this today. There's Pedro Braga there, and Diana Rezenjuls helping us outside. If you need something, just we'll have this 2 days, this long day, and tomorrow. If you need something, yes, I'm Antonio Montano. Daniela Malanchini, also one of the, you've been here all the editions, I think. Yeah. Let me see if so I think I've spoken today more than last year, so I'll pass the word to Ana Mónica Fonseca, here representing the academic partners. Thank you, Monica.
Okay, thank you so much, Antonio. So welcome, good morning, bom dia, olá to you all. Well, thank you so much, Antonio. I will probably repeat some of the things that you've said. I will try to adapt. But good morning to everybody. I'm very happy to be here today in Santa Maria, to be welcoming you, to be at this wonderful Biblioteca Municipal de Vila do Porto, and being part of this opening session, welcoming session to the LPAZ Forum 2023. Being in Santa Maria for me is always a matter to celebrate, a reason to celebrate. I'm always very happy to be here, but it means also that I'm here able to be once again in the opening session of the LPAZ Forum, which is a great pleasure to me. It means that we have once again and successfully put together an event that brings together people from many different areas of knowledge interested in reflecting and discussing on the Atlantic. And that discussion began yesterday, as I don't think we could have started in any better way. It was a wonderful roundtable questioning during this very stimulating moment that we had last night, whether the Atlantic is, if the Atlantic is indeed a region to begin with. And I will pick up this this motto that Licínia said, that Licínia put it on our minds. And is it a region to begin with? Does it have really common values, shared interests, or as Licínia wisely questioned, is it much more an area of competition or tension? So today we are here to follow up on that issues, to follow up on that reflection. I'm very happy, again, to be here on behalf of the Center for International Studies from Iscte, and if you allow me, put my hat also as representing this. I think it's a very big shoes to be in, but I will accept it. The other academic institutions that Antonio has mentioned, the Center for Humanistic Studies of the Azores University, the Atlantic Center, and the Transatlantic Studies Association. We all wish to thank you for being here. for having accepted to discuss the challenges of the West. We had a very successful reply to our call for papers. Again, this year we were able to recover this initiative to do the forum based on a call for papers that we spread around our contacts. And it was very happy. We had a very high response, so it was very good. And we are now today beginning a new day of discussions, of reflections, focusing together on identifying and analyzing some of the main challenges that the Atlantic is facing and the role that the Azores, but not only, may play in what I hope is to be a solution and a response to these challenges and to these issues. So this is why we have such a diverse program. I'm going to do such a very brief overview with the program. We will have 5 panels during the day. We will begin with a panel on island narratives that goes from representations of an African king in the Terceira Island, to the observation in a very long period of the changes to the weather based on sources, original sources, and originally exploited sources, which is something that I'm always very keen to see. Then we will move to the focus on the diaspora, the Azorean diaspora across the Atlantic to the United States, and the role that those communities have had and do have in their, and may have in the future, in their host country, also throughout the time and throughout the history. After lunch, we will focus on the geopolitics and geostrategic approaches within the Atlantic reality. Departing from the Azores on the 3rd panel of the day, we will broaden our perspectives towards a more Portuguese national approach to the Atlantic geopolitics. And in the end, in the 5th panel, we will focus on the technologies and their impact on the Atlantic politics, from oil drilling to the new space. These old and new forms of resources exploration bring also new challenges. So I'm sure that we will have the conditions here to have a very fruitful day of discussions and reflections. And last but not least, let me just extend my thanks to António Monteiro, Ricardo Batista, all the friends of the LPAZ Association for all their support and enthusiasm during the organization of these conferences. Again, I wish also to reinforce what António has mentioned on the importance and relevance of the support given by the municipality of Vila do Porto, the regional government, and the Luso-American Foundation. I must say that António's and the LPAZ team efforts were so high and so intense that they have, after very, very strong negotiations, arranged the possibility that we may have a wonderful sunny day. That was not happening last year, and we have it this year, so it's on their toll. So it will be even a better moment to discuss these issues today. So I look very forward to continuing our collaboration and definitely continue to come to Santa Maria. Thank you very much. Have all of us have a nice day. I now give the words to Deputy President of the municipality, Domingos Barbosa. Sorry.
Thank you. Bom dia, good morning. It is a great pleasure that we welcome all of you to Santa Maria. On behalf of the municipality of Vila do Porto, it is an honor and a privilege to receive you and offer our support for another edition of LPAZ Fórum. This one concerning to the Azores, the Atlantic and Global Challenge. We believe that events like this, held here on Santa Maria, play a significant role in advancing our understanding of Atlantic airspace also. It means its main challenge and opportunities. The discussions, the debates we'll have today will provide us with the opportunity to explore the past, understand the present, and above all, envision the future of Atlantic space. Listening to the various experts from different countries and universities who are part of this Fórum's program will allow us to reflect on the role, significance, and Atlantic dimension, not only of Santa Maria Island, not only of the Azores, but also of Portugal and Europe in a global context. I wish all a productive forum. I want to express my sincere thanks to the organization, to LPAZ Fórum, and thanks to all of you for being here. Obrigado.
Good morning, Mr. Vice President, dear Anna, dear Antonio, dear colleagues. In one of the most interesting sketches of Portuguese theatre, Ivone Silva played a role that at the time I would try to say it in English, it's in Portuguese first, a sketch of Olivia Patroa, Olivia Empregada, Olivia Costureira, in which one and the same lady was two persons, and that sketch was wonderful, in which she was divided. I, employer, I'm a capitalist, and I, a worker, and I am a reivindicator of my social rights, and I am a communist protester, and I am, in a sense, I too here have two roles. I am Carlos Amaral, the professor, the coordinator of the research unit, Portugal and the Sea, Europeism and the Transatlantic Relationship at the University of the Azores, and I am the regional director for European Affairs and External Cooperation, as Antonio has mentioned, nothing to do with sewing or with the activities beautifully portrayed by Ivone Silva. As regional director, it is, of course, with great pleasure that with my presence, I underlined the importance that initiatives such as this one deserve to the regional government of the Azores. Thus, its continued support and of course, congratulations to the work that is developed by the association, with the assurance that you can continue to count on us, because what you are doing is of the utmost importance to this island, to the region, and I dare say to our country. Whoever crossed the gates of the ancient temple at Delphos faced itself with a command, very well known, of know thyself, to the obligation that we should strive to know ourselves. This is, I believe, what you are doing, what the association is doing. I don't know if there is an Atlantic region, if there should be an Atlantic region. I don't know what a region is. I spent most of my academic career trying to understand exactly what it is. But I do know one thing. It was the President of the Republic who underlined recently that Portugal was the sea. And since its beginning, blocked to the east, the only option for Portugal to fulfill itself and to escape the condition of being but an autonomous community, what would be now an autonomous community of neighboring Spain, was the sea. Was facing the challenges of the sea and the worlds that the sea opened to our country. Portugal is the sea, and I would add that most of the sea of Portugal is the Azorean Sea. The sea of Portugal is the Atlantic, and the most of Portugal sea is the Azorean Sea. Thus, the importance of these meetings. Professor José Enes, the founder of the University of the Azores, I do not tire to underline this and repeat this, had an intuition, and his intuition was that the scarcity of the land in the Azores dictated that the future of the Azores depended upon the roles that the Azores could play within the nation and within the transatlantic relationship to the outside. And it has always been from the outside, basically from the West, from the transatlantic relationship, that the worlds of the Azores were forged. Thus, the importance of our communities in the Americas, both North and South, and the presence here of such eminent scholars from Brazil, the United States, Canada, not this year, and Canada is not this year, is of the utmost importance. I do not know if the 21st century will be the century of the Atlantic or not. Some had predicted that the Atlantic was doomed, and that just as the Pacific, and that just as the Mediterranean had known its heyday in ancient time, and with modernity, the Atlantic had raised to preeminence, so too the 21st would be the century, not of the Atlantic, but of the Pacific, and the Atlantic was pretty much finished. Recent tragic events underlined exactly the opposite, and that far from being dead and buried, the Atlantic is again center stage in international relations. And the North Atlantic, which is our space, in the North Atlantic, which is our space, the Azores, Portugal, has, of course, a central role to play. And in the whole Atlantic, if we want to proceed, if we can proceed in a sort of varied integration and varied cooperation, our region, given its capacity to establish links and to project bridges, and our country can again can play very, very important and determinant roles. We live in a tremendously dangerous time, a dangerous time that calls for bold responses. Our days, and this is the professor speaking now, not the regional director, our days require more than cooperation, be it bilateral or multilateral. Our days require nothing less than integration, nothing less than new political communities, the forging of new political communities that may be capable of addressing, may be able to be able to address the challenges that we are faced with. Organized in states, and Portugal, our country, was probably the first of them. Organized in states, we were able to master the entire world. Europe, the West, was able to master the entire world and was able to export itself, to project itself to the entire world. At this time, we are facing a challenge that, if we are not able to overcome this form of political organization, this type of political organization that we inherited from modernity, we are facing the challenge, the threat of nothing less than the risk of, I do not mean to say destruction, but of irrelevance, of outright irrelevance at the international scheme. And it is at this time, and I will finish, that an idea that emerged precisely at a time that was quite parallel to the one that we live in, the interwar period. An idea emerged of the creation of an Atlantic community, an Atlantic community that could imprint political form, political shape to the West. This idea has perhaps reached it's time, and it is perhaps now time to go forward, not in bilateral, multilateral, or any sort of evolution in this direction, but in that, just as the founding fathers at the end of the Second World War, the founding fathers of the European Union had the courage to go beyond sovereignty, state sovereignty, and to forge a European Union, what is now a European Union, so too now is perhaps the time to fulfill a dream, a project that is old of centuries, that is the dream of Victor Hugo, the dream of having a Europe in which France and Germany are more play the roles of Massachusetts and Florida and Illinois, and in which these two united brothers, the United Europe and the United States, are able to join, to come together and integrate, hugging, this is the words of Victor Hugo, hugging themselves across the Atlantic. And as an Azorian, it gives me, I cannot but smile and think that such a hug is done supporting themselves with the shoulders, supporting themselves here in these islands of the Azores. One final notion, Nemésio, one of our major Azorian and Portuguese intellectuals of the 20th century, likes to say that we Azorians are like mermaids, that we have a double identity. We are made of flesh and blood, but also of lava and of seawater. We do have in this context this double identity in which we are European, no doubt, Portuguese, no doubt, but we also have this transatlantic identity, this transatlantic nature that is substantiated and given clear expression in the presence of our communities. And it is this double nature that allows us for a double insertion and to fulfill this role of bringing together these two brothers, as Victor Hugo underlined. I will stop here. Perhaps I've already said too much, but we start to concluding as I began. Congratulations. Continue, keep up the good work, and be assured that you can count on us both at the University, at the Center for Humanistic Studies of the University of the Azores, and at the regional government, at least while we are to continue to be there, for assistance in this most meritorious work. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Domingos. Ana Monica, would you introduce the first panel?
I will share. Yes, I will share the next panel, and I would ask the speakers Edgardo, Timothy, and Andrea to be joining me on the table, and I will change the setting.